Welcome to the Torchlight Network. The Torchlight Network is doing a series of interviews on prominent business people and professionals to find out how they are coping with the coronavirus pandemic and the various government regulations and continuing to service their clients, in this era, and what they're doing to expand and flourish. Today we have Ed Dearborn, best-selling author and a board member of ROM Technologies. So Ed, how are you coping with all this stuff?
Well, first of all, I really want to thank you for having me on your show. As you know, you've been servicing me as my enrolled agent for years. You've done an incredible job. So I just want to give a shout out to you and your team for just really helping me navigate my taxes. I moved to Nevada about 4 years ago. You were phenomenal. So just want to thank you for not only having me on your show today, but for all your wonderful service. I highly recommend you to many people and will continue to do so. But to answer your question, how are we surviving? Believe it or not, at ROM Technologies and a couple other brands that I'm working with, we're having some of our best months ever because we really understood the online world and how to pivot. As you know, I've been writing about digital media for years, so that kind of gave us an advantage that a lot of brands didn't have.
Well, what did you do to pivot?
Great question. What we did to pivot is we knew that everybody was home, and I think, Facebook had 30% more engagement per day. So we knew people were on Facebook because they were at home. People were doing teleconferences. So what we did is instead of going to live conferences, because we live here in Vegas, which we're a conference town, we just started getting our marketing people to get people to come to Zoom presentations. We adapted our pitch decks and brochures to go into that zone. Moreover, what we did is we uploaded our email lists to the various social platforms, and we started pushing out more videos through the digital channels that we knew they were hanging out on. So, it's kind of like the old saying, you got to fish where the fish are. Well, we couldn't go to the business conferences or the medical conferences and meet doctors in person. Those were now shut down. But what we could do is drive the fish to a Zoom meeting, do Zoom presentations, as well as take our content and now distribute it through electronic means. So we just got savvy. We were able to make that fast pivot because I had a lot of background in digital media, and number two, we had a progressive thinking board and managers that really wanted to embrace it. And I think that's key. A lot of people resist digital media. They're kind of like, well, we've never done it, or, we've never had to do it. Well, as of March of this year, a lot of brands were forced with the necessity to evolve rapidly. We had to jump on a lot of other people, and therefore we were able to not really lose any momentum because of that pivot.
Well, very good. Now, also, how did it work, having everybody work from home, or is that pretty much how it worked out for you?
Well, two things. We do have a facility in Connecticut where we actually manufacture the actual unit, the bicycle. That was deemed by the government. Our facility was deemed by the government of Connecticut as an essential business. So we were very fortunate in that regard because we are in telehealth. So because we were a healthcare company and people needed healthcare products during the pandemic, we were deemed as essential. So that didn't shut down that aspect. Everybody else, in terms of our executives, we do operate primarily from home offices about 90% of the time. There was a slight bit of adjustment. And the biggest adjustment for us was that, typically we would develop new business by flying out to conferences where doctors were hanging out, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 doctors at a time go to these annual conventions. Those conventions were now shut. So the pivot was, okay, we can't go see them at the convention. So how do we use our marketing to bring them to our digital portals, primarily webinars, and how do we target them with our educational videos through Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, email lists, because that's where they were. They were opening up their emails much more than before because they had nothing to do except sit at home. So that was the pivot, is let's take everything that we were doing in person, let's digitalize it, and then let's distribute it to them in that way.
And how did that affect the total volume of production?
Well, to believe it or not, we actually increased our production. See, we took, it's like the saying goes, when life gives you lemons, you make a lemonade. What we did is we told the audience that telehealth, factually, we had President Trump, we had the World Health Organization, we had the CDC, all coming out with various statements that because of social distancing, telehealth, telemedicine was going to get a big leap of importance, because it allowed high-risk patients, such as we work with, to be able to continue their rehabilitation without having to visit a hospital. So we took those quotes from Trump, from the CDC, from the World Health Organization, and some other leading medical companies and publications, and we said, hey, look, this is where the world is going. This is how we're going to make lemonade out of it. And we just started accentuating in our branding and marketing that we were not just a rehab company, but we were a telehealth leader that happened to have rehab technology. So we really accentuated that fact based on the turn of events. So we really didn't miss a beat, and in fact, leveraged those facts to grow. And I think that's an important thing. We were fortunate that we were a med tech company and we could leverage those quotes. But, this is where forward-thinking companies have to be, is like, they have to go, okay, the world has changed, whether I like it or not, it has. How are we as a brand going to adapt? And that's the key thing today. So how are we going to pivot?
Well, that's a very excellent point. I just want to comment on that a little bit, because obviously I have a tax practice and a lot of things changed with the deadlines and everything. But there's a philosophical principle that, whenever you have a barrier, well, there's also an opportunity or a freedom there,
Yes.
And I think a lot of firms, as they're looking at they're running into barriers, they need to also take a look, is there any opening here, or what opening has opened up that I can then move forward in, I myself, I've done a lot of different marketing things during this period, because a lot of my regular clients, they're like, okay, well, they were working in casinos. They're not doing their taxes right now. They're hunkered down, and eventually they'll do them. So I had to come up with new clients in different categorizations. And, I have clients all over, but, I'm in Las Vegas. So when all the casinos shut down, a lot of my guys are like, okay, we're not doing our taxes right now, but there is plenty of other zones we could operate into. And I think that's something that people need to look at, as you were saying, because, if life gives you a lemon, there's some sort of lemonade that can be made or whatever. Now, I'm curious, first of all, I'm mainly interviewing you to get marketing tips for people, because you are a best-selling author and so on and so forth. But Before I go on, I wonder, do you want to say anything about ROM3, where I believe you're one of the founding board members or some such?
Yeah, if you want to know more about the company, just go to romtech.com, romtech.com. And by the way, ROM stands for range of motion. So what our device does, there's a video, it's about 2 or 3 minutes long. That's one of the marketing materials that we created as part of our pivot. We can't show you the bicycle in person at the convention. So guess what? You're now going to get a visual presentation via a video on our website. So I don't want to go too much in the company, although I appreciate you teeing me up to talk about it. We have a rehab technology. It's very exciting. We have a bunch of patents, more patents to come. We have a home version coming out in about 6 or 9 months. And, but really just go to the website, romtech.com, and I think you'll get a great understanding of what our company does.
Excellent. I also would just like to make the point in general that Ed was an author, and he was an expert on marketing. And because of that expertise, he's now a board member on a major medical corporation. It's a startup, but all the indicators are awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I tell people that, if you have a passion for something, I've always had a passion for advertising and marketing all the way since the mid-1980s when I worked at an advertising agency in Orange County, California. And no matter what I've done with my life, whether it's personal business, helping others, helping nonprofits, I've always gravitated towards the marketing and sales. It's just been one of those loves that I've always had. When we had that economic crash in 2006, it was also in 2006 when Twitter, Facebook, YouTube were all just emerging as brand new technologies. I saw that. Intuitively, I knew that this was going to be the future of business marketing. So I went to go work with a gentleman at that time named Bill McIntosh. And I said, Bill, he was very successful. I said, I know marketing, I know sales, but I see there's going to be a big shift. And if I don't learn this new technology, this new direction, I know that I'm going to be outdated. I'll become a dodo bird in the Museum of Animals That Used to Live. So I did a deep dive, and I've never looked back. And since that point, I've written some books. I just started my third book 2 days ago, which hopefully I'll be publishing in about a couple months, all about how do we leverage social media, content marketing, digital presence to not only attract more attention, but to really tell our story. And that's the critical thing. I think a lot of people think that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube is just about putting out stuff. But really, the essence of social media is when you can tell a story. That may be just be answering people's questions. It may be showcasing how-to tips, like what you do. I think what you're doing with social media and content is brilliant, which is give people tax tips. They have questions, answer their questions. And when you answer people's questions intuitively, even though you gave them the answer, most people don't act on it. What they do is they go, well, he's got all the answers, so I'll just go to him for the solutions. Yes, I could probably do my own taxes, but he's answering all my questions. Why don't we just turn it over to him? That, I think, is really the future and the power of digital marketing, is if we can get brands just to put out very helpful, intriguing, how-to content that helps them overcome their problems, maybe shows them a better way of doing something. And if a brand would do that consistently, what's going to happen is they're going to increase their reputation for their brand.
That's very true, and I appreciate your comments on that. I find I actually have a lot of friends I work with, and I've sometimes had people go, they don't want to give out their proprietary secrets or something. Give them out, man. The guy you're talking to, if you give him the total skin of how he can solve blah, blah, and he can do it really easy to do, 90% of them won't do it. They'll call you and ask you to do it for them because that's just the way it works. You think it's really simple, and maybe it is to you, but taxes, I can explain to people how they can save money on taxes, exactly what they can do, and they sort of get it, but the main thing they get is that I can help them. Anyway.
That's right. And Dave, here's the other point. Even if they fully get it, let's say they are 100%, mentally they have full understanding. But the next point is, will they do it? And what I found is, I can go to the cooking channel. I can go to YouTube, and I can have all those famous chefs that have got hotels and restaurants here in Vegas, and they can show me how to make their famous meatloaf or their fish and chips or their steak or whatever it is, their fettuccine. And I look at it, and 90% of the people will just end up going to the restaurant. They're like, I don't want to make it, but he makes it so delicious. It looks so good. Why don't we just go to the restaurant? That's why these chefs are so famous. They build that audience with great content. They give it all away. I'm going to give you all my cooking secrets. And what do the majority of people do? They end up going to their restaurant to get that recipe, to actually enjoy it versus do it. So I think if you can follow in those steps of those major brands that have built multi-million-dollar restaurant chains, give away your recipes. Don't worry. Yes, a few will take them and they won't spend money with you. But the vast majority of people will take your recipes and get inspired to buy from you.
Very good. Now, we expect to have a lot of business people and stuff like looking in on us. And you have an extraordinary expertise in marketing. And by the way, I haven't read all his book. I read the first one, Power Branding Secret. I hope I got the name right. But It was a very good, usable book. And you could take that data and use that to expand your business. And in fact, by reading a couple of books like this, when I was starting out my firm, it was hysterical. Because I would be calling up different gurus in marketing or SEO or things like this to find out what they could do for me. And because I had read a couple books, I could tell whether they knew what they were doing or they didn't. Because some guy, they've been marketers for the last 20 years or so, and they've made millions of dollars for their clients or whatnot. I believe it's true, but they haven't kept up. They haven't been on the cutting edge, and they can't routinely do it. So when talking to people, I would be able to go, oh, this guy sounds really good. I like these points. This guy, no, he doesn't get it, So, that's one thing. One advantage of studying a little bit of marketing is that you can tell whether you got a good marketing guy or not, even if you're not going to do it all yourself.
That's right. And I'll tell you, Dave, you bring up a really, really good point here, which is, when people would, when I would go and pitch people to work with them, they said, oh, you marketers have been ripped off before. I said, well, the reason why they ripped you off is because you were ignorant enough about the subject to be ripped off. And see, you bring up a good point, which is at least know enough so that you can make an intelligent decision. See, I could watch 20 hours about taxes, and I've watched a lot, read books about tax strategies, and I've watched videos because there's a lot of content out there. But I also know that I know enough that I'd rather just turn it over to you to negotiate with the IRS or to fill out the forms. It's way easier that way than why take the 10, 20 hours that you're going to spend with me when I just know enough to go, you know what? I've read enough to know that Dave is going to handle my taxes for me. And that's true of marketing. That may be true of HR. Maybe you know enough about HR to find the right HR person. And I think that, we have this expression in society called Netflix and chill. I like to tell people, well, while you're Netflixing and chilling, I'm YouTubing and learning. That YouTube is just the most amazing library of information. I mean, whether I want to buy a motorcycle or learn how to do camping, excuse me, or do my taxes or learn SEO, or, I'm going to go travel to Ireland and where's the best places to stay in Ireland. There's literally hundreds, if not thousands of videos with really good content creators, with very smart people, experienced people that are just so willing to share their information. But here's the challenge. Will you take the time consistently to learn from these masters? Because it could take you 20 or 30 hours to really learn about Ireland. It could take you 20 or 30 hours to really learn about SEO. So it takes a bit of a deep dive and a commitment. But for those who do that, not only are you going to make better decisions for yourself, but you're going to know who to work with. You're going to make better choices in selecting team members or strategic alliances. Like you said, you know enough about SEO, you know enough about branding, marketing to tell who's the right person to work with.
Yeah, and quite honestly, just for the, I got that. I read your book, and I read The New Rules of Marketing and PR by whom, and that's all I read. I just read them. I didn't study them deeply, but just that was enough of a difference that I could talk to people and see who was good and who wasn't. So now I have a different question for you, Ed. Now on, I'm just, what would be, what would be a marketing tip or a tip that you would give as a business executive to a businessman at this time, or to, things for people to look out for?
Well, I'm going to give you two tips. Number one, the first tip is I always look for what they're willing to do. See, I can come to somebody with 9 different things that I know will work if done consistently. But what I have found is it's not what will work, it's what they're willing to do that will work. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Well, I can lead a business to marketing, but I can't make it market. All I can do is go, here's the different options. What are you willing to do? Because some people aren't willing to go on video. Some people don't want to do podcasts. Some people don't want to post on social media. So I have to find something that they're willing to do. But I really think that if I was going to take one strategy that's super inexpensive and super effective, again, if done consistently, is email. Just some quick statistics. Emails are opened on average in America 17 times per day. It's also been found that when people wake up, the first thing that most people check is their email. Old people do email, young people do email, everybody does email. It is a great way to have, whether it's weekly or monthly, take your content and just put it out there and just constantly be in their inbox. And I'm telling you, that has brought me so many opportunities by developing. I just literally am about to close a very major contract that somebody met about a year ago, put them in my email database. I kept dripping. And so she finally called me and she goes, okay, this email now got my attention. I've been watching your stuff. I love your stuff, but this is the one. See, it took 20 or 30 touch points with that person on email, but I finally convinced her that I was the person to do. So my thing is, just whether it's eye contact or constant contact, spend the $60 a month, find a virtual assistant or a local marketing guy that knows how to do email. I would say if you got really good at that, that would be the backbone of your marketing. And then if you're willing to, automate your social media, that would be a great one. And my first love is always video. I think video is very powerful. As you know, Dave, you've done a lot of video. You've done a lot of branding with it. It's been successful for you. So, but email would be the thing that I would master first.
Well, very good. Now, the other question I have is, I know that you're working, board member for a big corporation, and
Yep.
I'm sure you're probably pretty busy. If a person has questions about marketing or wants some advice or assistance, are you available for that or no?
Yeah, there's probably a couple ways you can reach me. Number one, just go to LinkedIn and type in Edwin Dearborn, Dearborn. Or if you want to read my book, just go to Amazon or Kindle. On Amazon, you can get Power Branding Secrets. And on Kindle, I have an ebook for 99 cents. So if you're willing to, spend 99 cents, I think it's about 65 pages long. It's called 3 Degrees of Separation. I talk about how to leverage social media to make the right contacts. You could read the entire book probably in about 4 hours and spend 99 cents. That'll give you a little feel of how I teach people, and I think it'll give you some great tips on how to better leverage social media to get better contacts.
Well, that's very good. Now, I know, because I've known you for a while, we've been working together here for several years, that if I have a marketing question, I can call you and ask you a question. Do you have any, are you doing that anymore for others? Am I the only one?
No, there's a select few that I work with. Because ROM Technologies is grown and I'm spending more time, I've become more selective who I work with. But again, I'm willing to take a half hour, have a discovery call with anybody. I really have a passion for helping small businesses. And some people go, look, I can't afford you at this moment. And I go, great, get my books, read them, go to YouTube. What's the problem you want to solve? Great, here's somebody, do this. I'm more than willing to share valuable insights and, more importantly, actionable strategies that you actually can do, which is really what I concentrate in my book. So again, just go to LinkedIn. You can instant message me, right, through LinkedIn, and just say, hey, I saw your video, or I got your book, or both, and I have some questions. I need some assistance. I'm more than willing to, have that discovery call and see if there's a fit between us.
All right. And would you like to have your phone number out there? You just want people to go through LinkedIn
If they
first?
go to LinkedIn, it's all in my LinkedIn profile. It's all right there.
Very good. All right.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much, Ed. Is there anything else you would like to say to our viewers today?
No, again, Dave, I think you're doing exactly what small businesses need to do. You're engaging others. You're putting out content. And I know that you're going to be distributing this content, as I will. I'll be distributing this video. Just continue to do that. And I think that if other businesses and other entrepreneurs follow your example, I believe in the long run, they're going to have a lot more success than if they didn't. Yeah,
and thanks for being on the show. And I'm very happy to have you giving your insight to people watching, because I think if we can get a lot of people to actually reach out with more promotion, more help, let people know what they're doing, and not just hold back because of the coronavirus, but figure out how to wave the remote anyway, I think we're going to have a much more rapid, economic recovery. And that's the whole purpose of our major purpose, at least, of the Torchlight Network.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.